Could be. Yeah. Well, Shanna said it'll fix itself after they get the right data. Okay, do we need to wait for a high sign from Jack? Are we all good?
I think he was there already. I don't know if we.
All right, well, let's call the meeting to order, 6:30. Could we have the call to order, Mr. Zrensek?
Mrs. Barnes,
Here.
Mrs. Rogers,
Here.
Mr. Roach, here. Mrs. Barney,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Ms. Durig,
Here.
Ms. Seymour, Mr. Lennon.
Here.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to formally welcome our new board member, Mr. Brad Smith. Thank you for joining our group tonight. So Brad has a lot of experience in the world of architecture, and hope he brings some of that knowledge for the board. So thank you for joining us. I would like to make a motion to approve the January 16th, 2024 minutes. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mr. Roach,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney, Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Lennon, can we have the engineer's report, please?
Okay, going to the Lawrence project update. Under the collection system contract, last month we reported there's a potential issue with the water and gas line conflicts on Simpson Street. That was worked out with the contractor in the last month. They relocated a portion of it to Paper Street right away that was available. And there's an easement we'll have to get in the future for a gravity sewer connection for a couple of houses, but that worked out. That'll actually be a cost credit. So they're out there working. Things are going pretty well right now, so knock on. Yeah, I haven't heard too many complaints. He did submit partial payment number 9 in the amount of $432,922.39. We do recommend a motion to approve that. That's on the agenda. For the wastewater treatment plant contract, so they did complete the building shell, so the walls and ceilings up. They got the precast plank set. They're working on the rubber roof. Waiting on equipment, so we're still waiting on a formal schedule for them for when they'll be complete and ready to start up the plant. There's some electrical delays they're working through on the equipment end. So I think the last report was August for when the last piece of equipment might show up, but that might be for the other plant site. So we're still waiting on a formal schedule. That way we can come up with a schedule for the residents of when they can connect. That's like the big item right now. So they did submit partial payment number 8 in the amount of $223,140.08. We do recommend approval of that by motion also. And then there is also the Penvest payment request number 9. Prepared for consideration tonight. Let me go off the agenda. In the amount of $550,171.49, and that's a payment requisition number 9.
Okay.
Traditions of America, so we did have a meeting with the developer on February 6th. We did do a final walkthrough on February 9th of the site. We did receive the record drawings and a few other items. We have a couple administrative comments on the drawings that we'll be issuing, and nothing significant. And a couple things on the quantities for the final maintenance bond. So that letter, it should have went out tonight. If not, it's going out tomorrow morning. So it's stuff they should be able to address in short order. Also under developments, a Gerber land development. That's a proposed auto repair facility. We did issue a review letter on February 9th. We did receive a resubmittal already, and we're working through that. We'll be issuing that in the next 24 hours as well. But we do have more comments on that submittal. So.
Okay.
So-
Anything else there?
What's that?
Anything else other than going through the motions?
That's it. Those for the motions.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve partial payment number 9 in the amount of $205,636.88 for contract number 2017-06, the construction of sanitary sewers and appurtenances?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mr. Roach,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Do I hear a motion to approve the partial payment number 9 in the amount of $124,694.29 from local share?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mr. Roach,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
In regards to contract number 21 STP1, the Village of Lawrence Sewage Treatment Plant, do I hear a motion to approve partial payment number 8 in the amount of $308,228.10?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mr. Roach,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
On the same contract, do I hear a motion to approve payment number 8 in the amount of $17,503.20 from local share?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mr. Roach,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Penvest payment requisition, do I hear a motion to approve the Penvest payment requisition number 9 in the amount of $550,171.49?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mr. Roach,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Okay, for motion for signing deed of easement for Traditions of America Phase 5. Did you provide information on that one? Is that where you had the red lines?
Yes, we have some minor administrative comments on the drawings. We'll be issuing a letter. Those are ones they could fix that pretty quick, I would
Okay.
think. Yeah.
So I'll make that motion to signing of the deeds of easement for Traditions of America Phase 5. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mr. Roach,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Okay, do I hear a motion on conditional acceptance of sanitary sewers from Traditions of America Phase 5 between manhole 4-10 and manhole 5-8?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mr. Roach,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Okay, nothing else for engineers report? Good, thank you. Solicitors report. Ms. Seymour?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. I did submit a written report, just to highlight a couple things. I've been working as some minor issues come up. Mike keeps me in the loop on a lot of things, which is really nice, so that I, have a feel if something does become more of an issue, I'll be, have the background to it. So some minor things have come up, we've worked together. With regard to the CHJA litigation, discovery is continuing now. I do not need an executive session on that, that's sufficient. There were a couple right-to-know matters that came up in between when I actually updated the report and got it over to Ramel's office, so they didn't make them up, but I'm working with Mike to work through those. They seem pretty routine type of things. And finally, on the LNS wastewater plant, you might recall a few months back, they had approached us to see if we were interested in the plant. Mike and I worked together to prepare a response letter outlining some additional information we would need to see to consider, their request. And that letter is our letter that we prepared. That's the letter that's attached to the report.
Okay.
So that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
I have a question. At CHJ litigation, if everybody on the board in Canonsburg decides to vote to sell it, what about the surrounding communities that go into it, and we say no? Does that pass?
The The agreements call out the procedure for how that would have to happen, and the authorities do not have a say in it. Only the incorporating municipal entities would have a say in it, I think. I don't believe that the authorities have a voting right to make that decision. I haven't looked at the agreement, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
But the litigation is separate from
But the
that.
litigation is separate from that, right,
Yeah,
right.
but I think we do have,
I think there's a clause in there.
Is there?
It's
That-
not a vote,
Okay.
but there
We
has
have
to be
something
a
to say about it.
consensus, I
Consent
believe.
for
I
5,
don't know the
yeah.
legal wording, but
Okay,
we can have a say.
we have a say, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And there are 2 townships and 3 municipal authorities within that group that have a say.
A say.
2 townships, of Cecil and North Strabane.
I think so,
Okay,
yeah,
that's what I thought too, way back when.
yeah. So nothing really to report there yet.
No, Ramel had
We're
mentioned
having another
that,
meeting here.
that they, yeah, and it's, you kind of just have to take it day by day. But right now, as I understand it, the mediation part of it has been put aside in the discovery, because they were trying to mediate it in the anticipation that there might be a sale, and so that that could be resolved before there was any sale. But now that that has been continued, or now that the sale has been postponed for now, the discovery is continuing.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Ms. Dorick, Business Managers Report, please.
All right, the financial reports for December 2023 were included in your packets. Any questions on those?
Nope.
Nope. All right, a debt service payment was made on February 2nd for the 2016 bonds. I included copies of that transaction in your packets. I will be contacting our auditor, Mark Turnley, within the month to get our 2023 audit scheduled. And then at the end of January, anyone who has not made a payment or set up on a payment plan for their unpaid sewer liens, I sent them out a letter reminding them of their outstanding lien balance on their property. I also let them know that if it is not paid in full or a payment plan is not set up in our office before April 1st, 2024, we will be contacting PA American Water to have their service shut off. I mailed out 11 letters, and we did have 1 customer who mailed in a payment to pay off their lien. And then in March, I'll begin the shut-off process by sending out the notification letters and then posting the properties for people we haven't heard from.
Have you heard from anybody that needed assistance? We still have connection with that organization that we can connect them with to get,
That's only for the unpaid bills.
okay,
That-
not any kind of
not
lien
liens,
situation?
no,
Okay,
no. Nope. And then I did get the authority's 2024 budget entered into our accounting system. And that's it for me.
okay. All right, Authority Managers Report, Mr. Zrenchek.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Under old business, no change on item 1 for the NPDES permit renewals. They were all submitted. We're just waiting for comment. Silver Creek Development has addressed all outstanding technical comments. The remaining items are administrative. We're waiting to hear back from the developer on a couple of items. They did submit a question on separation between the water line and the sewer line, and they want to see about possibly making some adjustments to the laterals. So I spoke to them and told them to resubmit what they want so it can be reviewed. Mr. Lennon covered the Traditions of America, Phase 5. I did receive a couple of the outstanding items today that were remaining. The only thing we need to close that out is I need the cost and just a couple minor things, but as far as moving it forward, we can keep that process moving forward. Again, Mr. Lennon commented on Gerber Collision. We've been going back and forth with some comments, so anytime we receive anything besides myself reviewing it, I forward it on to LSSE for review. So as soon as we know something, I will inform the board. Item 5 is Advanced Instruments that was out to take a look at our flow meter over at the Teodori wastewater treatment plant. We found the firmware to be out of date as well as an issue with the internal SD card. We updated the firmware and replaced the SD card, and it seems to be working for now. But we have included money in the capital budget this year to replace or update flow meters that are being discontinued. Luckily, this one at Teodori is one of the newer ones, but at Miller's Run and Cherry Brook, they're both outdated. And also the flow meters that we measure the flow from Brush Run and South Point, they are being discontinued, so we will need to upgrade those. I did attach quotes from Advanced Instrument, who we get the instrumentation from. They updated those for me. These are all on CoStar, so they do not have to be bid. We had bid $50,000 for upgrades. The total cost to do what we need to do at these sites is about $31,000. So we have a little bit extra in there if there's some extra flow meters or something else we need to do out in the system. So it came in better than what we had anticipated on the price. Next item is under new business. The standby generators have all been scheduled for their annual maintenance. We've been currently doing annual service contracts, but during the conversation trying to get this renewed, I found out that a 5-year service contract is available. This would allow us to lock the 24 prices in until 2028. Historically, the increase on each one of the units is about 2.63% each every year. But the total cost for 5 years, which would cover all 4 generators, is $13,816.30. I would recommend locking that in, so then it's already scheduled. We don't have to worry about it, and it's all taken care of. It'll be on the schedule. Like I said, right now it's been 2.63%, but who's to say it doesn't jump, more than that? So that's a good thing that we can lock that in. Item 2, David Coldren from KLH contacted me about a project with the Mount Pleasant Township Municipal Authority. They're trying to provide public sewer to some 570 residential customers located in the areas of Hickory, Southview, and Westland in Mount Pleasant Township. They've been unsuccessful in obtaining grants for the projects. So there's an area in Mount Pleasant in the Southview Antill area that is in dire need of sewage, and they were wondering if we might be able to help. They wanted to have a brief meeting to see if this is an option. I don't know if there's anything we can do, but it can't hurt to ask and see. If they're just looking for a place to connect and they're going to pay, a good portion of it, it's a way to gain 100 customers.
I assume that would go into Miller's Run. Do we have
Yes,
capacity?
it would be past the old Public Works building where they would be connecting in. But like you said, again, there's nothing in stone, but I just think it would be worthwhile just to have a brief meeting just to see what's going on, to see if there's any possibility. If not, we just took a little bit of time to see what's going on, so. Item 3, we are having issues with the auto dialers at multiple pump stations. The phone lines are a continuous issue, as well as the age of some of these units. These stations don't need anything fancy, just basic units that will allow the operators to know if there's a power failure, pump malfunction, or high water alarms. They would also use cellular service, which is a yearly subscription versus a monthly bill. I did do a small breakdown. When it printed out a little bit smaller than I would like. But to give everybody a quick idea of what we are looking at is annual cost, it just say Maple Ridge Pump Station is $906.60. The annual cellular cost is $335.90. The annual savings is $570.65 at that one site. So basically, you're paying right now $7,269.84 for a phone line to all these sites. That's all of them. Cellular to all these sites would be $2,687.60. You're looking at a savings of $4,582.34. Percent savings about 63% by going with cellular.
Feel confident with cellular usage in those locations?
Yes, I've used them other places, and it seems to be very reliable. I mean, unless there's tree cover, or something like that, and we'll take a look at that, before we would do it. But the units that I am suggesting I'll get pricing on, they are called Sensiphone Sentinel Pros. They're cloud-based, so basically you can actually look at them on your phone to see when it's an alarm and different things like that. Each unit, at the time I purchased, the last one I purchased, they were only about $1,600 a piece. So it's not like it's an expensive unit. It gives you 8 output channels that cover mostly everything you need. Power outage, 2 pumps, high wet well, covers everything you need. So I will get pricing on those, get that updated, and we don't have to replace them all at once. I would just recommend going with the ones that we continually have the problems with at first, and then we can just, little by little, knock those out. And then at the end of the year, if we have money left over in the budget that we didn't do maintenance or whatever, we can always add that in. So, but that's where we're at with that. Item number 4, L&S Wastewater had contacted the authority about the possibility of acquiring the treatment plant and collection system known as the Monaco plan. Chris had touched base on that. We're just waiting to hear a response from the letter that was sent. That was included in the solicitor's report packet. Just to give everybody an update, the lease for the authority office is up at the end of 2024. We can either keep the current space or look at the space directly above us, which is available for lease. The space above us would give us more room for records, maps, dedicated area for customers when they come to pay the bills. There's also cameras up there now that monitor the whole floor, including inside the building. So it's something to consider. Like I said, we're kind of out of room as far as with all the maps and different things like that. So we'll get some more information on it. And if anybody would like to, we can arrange a tour to take a look at the space. I know the other option that was presented to us is there is an office next door to us that they may be willing to move the person out to give us a little bit more space, but there may be remodeling costs involved with that. So we'd have to weigh out which one is more efficient. Item 6, property at 25 Moore Lane is being purchased. The purchaser plans on demolishing the current home that is on the property. They submitted a letter stating that they are going to continue to pay the minimum monthly bill to keep the tap active. I have attached the letter. Last item is the motor for the comminutor at the Cherry Brook wastewater treatment plant has failed. That has been sent out for repair. That is all I have. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to entertain them.
Questions for Mike?
Do we have a date we have to give a notice of intent, whether we're staying in that space or moving?
It'll probably be by October. If something would happen that we want to look at the space above, and we would have, I think they said, probably a 2-month window, to get up into the new space, and I think they give you about 2 weeks beforehand. I know they said they were willing to repaint, and there is furniture provided, so we wouldn't have to move any furniture other than the map cabinets and the filing cabinets. So. And they would remove anything that's not there. One of the nice things there is there's a big conference room that we don't have that would be able to have all the maps in there. And if you had meetings, you'd be able to spread out on the conference room table and do some different things. So, I mean, it's a thought. So,
We also discussed security.
yes.
And it sounds like that might be a better option.
That's why, if the chair would like to do it, maybe we have a, subcommittee that they can come and take a look at the site, and we can have the property manager there to talk. I'm sure there's room for negotiation, so.
Okay.
Have they thrown out any prices as to what it would be?
It's negotiable. It's a lot larger space. It's about 2,500 square feet. So we'll have to see what the pricing is, so.
I think having a committee to review that, do a little more investigation on it would be good. With any volunteers, I will absolutely be able to do that. Anybody with good negotiation skills want to join? Craig has, well, and you know what, that makes good sense. Craig is on the safety committee, so looking at that space and how we want to do the payment area for people coming up for bills and looking at the cameras, that'd be a good idea.
Cameras is a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, good. We'll connect with you. All right, thank you. Do we have any correspondence? Nothing other than what was mentioned already. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve payment of expenses and transfer of funds?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Roach?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
All right.
Okay, do we have any comments from the floor today? Please come up, name and address.
Hi, my name's Dino Sabatoni. I live at 450 Georgetown Road, right next to the VFW. I had sent some questions in.
Excuse me, can you take that microphone out of the holder there, see if it works better than,
Just try to move it closer to me.
does it come out?
How's that? Is that working better?
I think it's the other one. Yeah, it's that one.
That definitely doesn't come out.
Yeah, it doesn't come out. I'll just try to bend it down. I'll just lean over. I had sent some questions in to the engineers, and I was hoping I could speak with the engineer after the meeting or something. Basically, just back in October, I was asking about manhole 111 location, specific location and depth. Also about the trees along the VFW that are going to be cut down. I'd like to be informed exactly when they're going to be cut so I can help kind of minimize the damage in my yard. I have a bunch of ornamental trees along there. And also, there's a neighbor has a septic tank, a very large septic tank down in our woods. They have an easement, they could service it, but they never have. That easement goes away once the public sewers take effect. But I don't want to be stuck with that septic tank, so to speak, and have to worry about something happening. I wanted to know what the laws were in place in the county in terms of, like, are they filled with gravel and who's responsible for it? Even though it's on my property, it's not my septic tank, and there's a, so I was hoping to find out exactly what's going to be done about that.
Do we have any, Chris, do you know any remedy for that? Or was it something we'll have to look?
Well, we would have to look, I don't know it offhand. Typically, there is an ordinance or rules and regs that addresses what happens if you have a septic tank and public sewage becomes available. Usually they have to be filled in, crushed, that kind of thing. So we'd have to check and see if we either have rules and regs on that or if the township has an ordinance. And then I would also, like, I don't know exactly what, because it's an easement between you and the other property owner, right? So you need to take a look at that too, because there might be something in that easement too that addresses it. But it should be the responsibility of the septic owner, a septic system owner.
Correct.
But
That's
you
what I was
want to, you want to check that easement for language too, and make sure that that's, because that's maybe clearly covered in the easement.
It's just in the deed, it just.
Oh, it just said-
It just has just a brief note in the deed that says, there's a septic that's, on your property, and the other person has the right and easement to go ahead and service that if they wish, but it hasn't been done in decades, so and then I believe the property owner is going to be selling it soon, once the sewers come through, so, I'd like to know ahead of time what exactly is going to happen there.
Yeah. We would have to, we would have to check the ordinances, and it's probably in the ordinances, I bet. That's usually where I see that.
Okay.
But we can check that, and we can get it to Mike, and then he can contact you.
I've been keeping Mike in the loop, and I just wanted, maybe speak with the engineer. I know they're really busy, a little behind schedule. I guess Redzik ran into some issues that they hadn't expected in Lawrence, so, I understand things get pushed back, and then my little thing might be a concern to me, but in the big picture, it's really not that important, so, it gets kind of pushed to the side. So I thought if I came in and just spoke directly with
You came to the right place tonight, because they both, can take your information and make sure that we get back to you. Larry, do you have the information that he provided before? Did that come
I
through
have
Mike?
I had the email, but I had questions for him, so we
Okay.
can go to after the meeting. I'm opening the drawings right now, so. yep,
Okay.
Yep.
And somebody was actually out today, a guy, Matt, came out and put a stake in the ground for the first time on our property for where the manhole should be. So I knew it was gonna be somewhere around there, but I hoped it could be a little bit lower and in the yard, but I'll talk to you afterwards.
Okay, very good, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right, do I hear a motion for executive session for personnel matters, litigation, and property?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Roach?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Okay. We're going to remove ourselves, but I don't think in executive session, Larry, is necessary, right? Maybe that you two can connect while we're in there.
If there's something we can think of, we can always come out.
I do.
and Yank him into executive session.
Make like a tree and leave. No, all good. I had questions. I wasn't quite sure what elevation.
Yeah, some guy, Dave, I think, came out.
Reedsma, yeah.
Okay, he
He
was
works
back
for me, yep.
early November.
Yep.
And he said he was gonna get back to me. I guess he probably,
Timing's good, so.
yeah, okay, so I figured all the other stuff going on, I was like, well, this can wait. So I figured